All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. I often get asked, when is the best time to get financial advice? And this is a very, very interesting question because obviously there are several scenarios where it's a bit of you can call it a bit of a trigger or a bit of a moment where, hey, you should really get advice on this situation. But generally speaking, I just want to say that the best time to get advice was 10 or 20 years ago. And the reason I say that is because I talk to a lot of even clients when I give them advice. One of the first things they usually say when I give them advice for the first time is, I wish I did this 10 years ago. I wish I did this 20 years ago. And I know that many people go through different circumstances where they could be in between jobs or in between different stages in their life and they don't really know what they want in the future. But I can honestly say that getting advice helps a lot because while in a lot of cases there may not be many specific things about your circumstance which won't change, yes, you might know what your wage is and how much you want to save for a house, for example, but if there's a lot of other uncertainties, yes, it might put you in a position where you might think, I'm going to wait until I know exactly where my situation's at before I speak to someone. At the same time, getting financial advice helps someone make an informed decision about their finances because you might be considering different circumstances, different scenarios. One could be buying a house, one could be buying two houses, one could be renovating, one could be building, or one could be retiring in 10 years, one could be retiring in 15 years. And without financial advice, without the projections, without the proper, looking at it on paper, it's very hard to make an informed decision because if you're not making an informed decision about something, you're just guessing. So yes, there's the argument that I get a lot of, I'm just going to wait until I know what I'm doing with work. Yes, I understand that, but at the same time, it's important to make an informed decision. At the same time, there probably is never really a perfect time to get advice. I know financial advice is not cheap, good advice anyway, but there's never really a perfect time to get it either because you're never no one has a crystal ball and circumstances for everyone are always changing. So no one really knows what's around the corner. And the issues that you're probably going to find is if you consider getting advice and you think, I'll look at it in a couple of months, most likely a year will pass, even a couple of years may pass, if not more, and you wouldn't have gotten advice and you'd look back and think, wow, we were going to get advice a few years ago on this, weren't we? And maybe while you're talking to a partner or looking in the mirror and thinking about your situation. And my point there is, if you don't get advice now, you may just put it off and you may procrastinate and you may not actually get it. So now is better than never, if that makes sense, or now is probably better than later. Another argument that I hear a lot is people saying to me, okay, I'm not earning enough to get advice. Okay, I get it. Again, advice is not cheap, as I said earlier, but with proper financial advice comes proper money management skills, comes investing, comes better decisions, comes having the confidence to make financial decisions, the confidence to pull the trigger and change jobs, start a business, invest, do things differently. And this usually helps someone with their circumstance as well when I talk to them. And I could honestly say I've never given someone advice where I didn't feel like it was in their best interest. And there's a lot of situations where somebody initially didn't, both me and the client probably, we're still like 50-50 as to whether this was going to put them in a better position. But after we went through the whole process and the discussions and talking about it together, we both worked out, no, wait, this actually is going to be better, or this has been better, or this has helped. And yes, there are certain scenarios where if somebody doesn't follow the advice, that's a different story. Because you can get the best advice in the world, but if you don't actually follow it, then that's not really going to help anyone. But I can say I've got clients I've helped which were on Centrelink. I've got clients who have just started working. I've got clients in between jobs, clients with plenty of debt, clients with hardly any savings, any super, and I've been able to help them in the past. And I could name you many, many, many success stories. I could, recall many of them. And this is why I get excited about these things, and I feel very confident when I talk about advice. And so again, going back to when is the best time to get advice, I'd say now. I'd say yesterday was the best time. Because again, even when I think back to my last 6 or 7 clients I've given advice to, sometimes it's just avoiding mistakes that can save someone thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just looking at things differently, looking at things through a different perspective. Sometimes it could be just even knowing, wow, I can actually do this because I've received advice and I've got the confidence and we're making an informed decision, and we can sleep at night knowing that we can invest in X, Y, and Z, or we can make these decisions because we've had advice from someone. So to me, that's the best way for me to answer it. Now, yes, there are going to be certain circumstances, as I said, where it's going to be more of a trigger to get advice. So one could be when you're looking to buy property. Could be your first house, second house, third house, and just understanding the ramifications, the financial ramifications of doing something like that, understanding what it's going to do to your overall financial position and how it's going to affect the other things in your financial circumstance is big. Another one is when you start considering retirement planning. Now really, I think we should all be retirement planning decades before we want to retire. But even if it's, hey, look, in 10 years we need to put up our boots, we need to stop working, or in 15 years, or once you've got a time where, I don't think I'm going to be able to work past this particular age due to career or health or age or whatever it may be. Another thing is when you need investment advice. When you want to invest, you've got savings, you don't know what to do with it. You want to know what is the most appropriate investment strategy. What is the most appropriate investment vehicle? Where do I start? What are my options? What should I do? What should I avoid? Things like that. Another one, and this is coming a fair bit lately, is but when someone receives an inheritance or a payout, could be from winning the lottery or something like that, or a payout of annual leave or something through work, but even an inheritance, getting money in, an insurance payout, that's a big one as well, where making smart decisions early can literally save you thousands of dollars in tax, if not more, or could just help someone make better decisions. Another one is if you're moving overseas, or moving from overseas, or moving interstate, moving houses, knowing, okay, what are things going to look like? Considering things from a tax perspective, considering things from an investment perspective, considering things from a living costs perspective, income's going to change. All these things will change when you move interstate or to another country. Another one is when you've got a decent income coming in, but you're very time poor. That's a big one where a lot of people just, again, I believe we all need to outsource this, but especially those that are time poor, that don't have the time to do research or talk to people, having someone there to guide them can make a big difference, because usually someone that earns a lot of money has worked very hard to get to that position, or they work very hard in that position. And you don't want that to go to waste. You want to look back in 5, 10, or 20 years and be glad that you made hay while the sun was shining, that you want to be glad that you invested, you want to be glad that you made the right financial decisions for your family. Another big one is when someone's starting a family. This is a very common one where somebody is, a couple, they fall pregnant and they're like, okay, we now need to take life insurance seriously. We now need to plan for the future. We now need to invest for the future. We want our child to go to a private school, things like that. Just considering starting a family, or if you are now pregnant and you are going to start a family, thinking about these things early. Again, I think this should be done way more in advance, but usually that's a very, very strong trigger for a couple to be like, yep, we need to speak to someone just to make sure we're making the right decision, because it's not just 2 of us. It's now going to be 3, if not 4, if not 5, if not more than that. And just like, while I'm on the topic of marriage, divorce, going through a divorce, going through a separation. It's not fun. It's not easy for anyone. Or maybe for some, but for most people, it's not easy going through a divorce or a separation. So just making sure that you're doing it properly, making sure that you're both starting off on the right track and that you're making the right decision, especially if you've got children, getting advice just to make sure that you're ticking the boxes, you're crossing the T's, you're making the smart decisions, and you're making measured, mature decisions. Because when someone's going through something like that, it is an emotional roller coaster, and it is very easy to let emotion take control of our decision-making process. Another big one is if you just got a promotion through work, you've just changed jobs, earning more money, you want to make the most of that income. I have a lot of people that tell me, you know what, I just got a promotion. We've been fine on the income I've been earning. On this extra income, I want to invest every dollar of it, and that usually is a good trigger to start doing things like that, because you know what, you've been living off $100,000 a year, for example, for the last 4 or 5 years, and you've been fine. You've still been able to save money and go on holidays. You're now earning 120 or 130. You could spend it, you can save it, or you can do something with it. And the last one is if you just want to change your super fund, you don't feel like your super's in the right place, or it's appropriate, it's invested appropriately, or you don't know if it is or not, and you just want to make sure it is. Things like that, just to make sure that you've got the right setup, the right things in place there. So again, these are triggers, but as I said, I think everyone should get advice. I may be a bit biased, but I think I'm biased for all the right reasons, because I've seen both sides of the story. I've seen those that have got advice of people. I've seen those that have not received advice. And there is a very, very big difference. Statistically, those that receive financial advice are a lot more better off. And I can tell you that now, it's not just for the rich. It's not just for the poor. Financial advice is for anyone that wants to make better financial decisions for them and their family. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.